Welcome to our deep dive into Dr. Katie Hung's presentation, all about AI's potential impact in 2034.
Oh, yeah. You're in for a real treat.
Yeah.
Dr. Hung isn't just some computer science whiz with a PhD. She's also a leading voice in business analysis.
Right.
Literally wrote the book on it.
Oh, wow.
It's called Business Analysis in the Era of Generative AI. So when she talks about AI's future,
Yeah.
people listen.
They do.
Yeah.
She paints this picture of the world in 2034, even includes some futuristic images, flying cars,
Yeah.
robot butlers, the works.
Oh, yeah.
But the real focus is how we might use AI to solve global problems, not just the flashy stuff.
Right. It's about looking beyond those attention grabbing images and getting to the real substance. Dr. Hung dives into a whole range of challenges: climate change,
Okay.
natural disasters, resource shortages, you name it.
Wow.
And the common thread is how AI and generative AI can analyze mountains of data,
Right.
spot patterns humans might miss, and point us towards better solution.
That's a pretty tall order. Let's start with something like climate change.
Okay.
How could AI realistically make a difference there?
Think about the scale of climate data we're dealing with.
Right.
It's overwhelming for humans to process.
Right.
AI can analyze all that, create incredibly detailed models of climate change impacts, and guide us towards effective policies based on real insights, not just guesswork.
So it's not just about predicting what's coming, but actually figuring out what we can do now to make a difference.
Precisely. And that same principle applies to something like earthquake prediction.
Okay.
AI can analyze seismic data, figure out where and when earthquakes are most likely to hit.
Okay.
And that can lead to better early warning systems, disaster preparedness, even strategies to make buildings safer.
That's fascinating. It sounds like AI can help us make smarter use of limited resources too.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to food and water.
Absolutely. Imagine AI as this super efficient agricultural consultant, helping farmers squeeze the most out of their land and water. It can analyze weather patterns, soil conditions, crop yields, all sorts of factors to optimize irrigation.
Right.
Choose the best planting strategies, and ultimately produce more food with less waste.
Okay, so we've got AI predicting earthquakes, helping farmers grow more food. What about something like pollution? Can AI actually help us clean up the mess we've made?
AI can absolutely help with that. Picture the sensors all over the place, constantly monitoring pollution levels and feeding that data into an AI system.
Got it.
The AI can then track down the sources of pollution, model how it's spreading, and give us the information we need to develop targeted policies to protect the environment.
This is really making me rethink the possibilities of AI. I've always thought of it as this futuristic technology, but it sounds like it's already being used to address some very real-world problems.
Oh, it is.
What about crime? Can AI actually make our cities safer?
It's already happening. Law enforcement agencies are using AI to analyze crime data, identify patterns and trends, and even predict where crimes are likely to occur.
Wow.
This kind of predictive policing can help police departments deploy their resources more effectively and hopefully prevent crimes before they happen.
That's incredible. But what about cybercrime? With everything moving online, it seems like we're more vulnerable than ever to hackers and data breaches.
That's where AI really shines. Think of it as a tireless digital watchdog. Constantly monitoring network traffic for anything suspicious. It can detect patterns that might indicate an attack and even respond automatically to neutralize threats, all in real time.
Really?
That's a level of protection humans just can't match.
It sounds like AI is good for protecting us from both physical and digital threats. It's almost like having a personal bodyguard in the real world and a digital guardian in cyberspace.
It's definitely a powerful tool for security, but it's not just about protection. AI can also help address deeper societal issues like economic inequality.
That's an interesting thought. How can an algorithm help bridge the gap between the haves and have-nots?
By giving us a deeper understanding of the problem, AI can analyze vast amounts of economic data to identify the root causes of inequality, things like disparities in income, access to education, healthcare, you name it. And armed with that knowledge, we can start to develop more effective policies and programs to level the playing field.
So AI can't just predict earthquakes and grow more food. It can also help us build a more equitable society. That's pretty remarkable.
It is, and Dr. Hung also highlights AI's potential in promoting social justice.
This is where I get a little lost. How can an algorithm fight social injustice?
It's about using AI to uncover the hidden patterns of discrimination and bias that exist in so many areas of our lives.
Yep.
Housing, employment, the criminal justice system, you name it.
Yeah.
By shining a light on these patterns, we can start to address them in a more systematic and effective way.
It's like AI is giving us a new set of eyes to see the world more clearly and to see the injustices that we might otherwise miss.
Exactly. And once we see the problem, we can start to implement solutions that promote fairness and equality.
Okay, this is all starting to make sense.
Yeah.
What about war and conflict? Can AI actually help us achieve world peace?
World peace might be a bit of a stretch, but AI can definitely help us understand and potentially even prevent conflicts by analyzing historical data, identifying the patterns and triggers that lead to war. We can start to develop more effective peacekeeping strategies and early intervention techniques.
That's amazing. It sounds like there's almost no area of human life that AI can't touch in some way.
It's true. AI has the potential to revolutionize nearly every aspect of our world, from the way we work and communicate to how we address global challenges.
But it's important to remember that AI is just a tool.
Right.
It's up to us to decide how we use it.
That's a crucial point. AI itself is neither good nor bad. It's how we wield its power that matters.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. From climate change to crime prevention, from food security to social justice, it seems like AI could play a vital role in shaping a better future. But Dr. Hung also mentions healthcare and drug discovery. Can AI really revolutionize these fields?
Absolutely. It's already happening. Yeah. Imagine AI as a medical detective.
Okay.
Analyzing medical images with incredible precision, helping doctors spot diseases earlier and more accurately.
Got it.
And it's not just about diagnosis. AI can also help develop personalized treatment plans based on a patient's unique genetic makeup and medical history.
That sounds incredible. So AI can lead to longer, healthier lives for all of us.
It has that potential. Yeah. Think about a world where diseases like cancer are detected in their earliest stages long before they become life-threatening.
Wow.
Or a world where treatments are tailored to your specific needs, maximizing their effectiveness and minimizing side effects. That's the promise of AI in healthcare.
That's an incredibly exciting vision. But with all this talk of AI's potential, it's easy to get carried away. What are some of the potential downsides or risks we need to be aware of?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll dive into more deeply in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
But to give you a taste, one of the big things people are worried about is what happens to jobs as AI gets better at doing things humans currently do.
Right, the whole robots are taking our jobs scenario.
It's a legitimate concern.
Yeah.
And we need to be thinking about how to manage this transition. We need to focus on retraining and upskilling workers for the jobs of the future. Yeah. Jobs that require creativity, critical thinking, human interaction.
Yeah.
Things AI still struggles with.
So it's not about replacing humans, but about finding ways for humans and AI to work together more effectively.
Exactly. We need to view AI as a tool that can augment our capabilities, not replace us entirely. There will always be a need for human ingenuity, empathy, and compassion. Things AI just can't replicate.
Well, that's reassuring. Before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to touch on one more point from Dr. Hung's presentation. She ends with this really powerful story, the starfish story. Have you heard that one?
Of course, it's a classic.
Yeah, father and son are walking along a beach covered in starfish that have washed ashore.
Right.
The son starts throwing them back into the ocean one by one.
Yeah.
The father says, "There are thousands of them. You can't possibly make a difference."
Right.
And the son replies, "Well, I made a difference to that one."
It's such a simple story.
It is.
But it carries such a profound message.
It does. What do you think Dr. Hung is trying to convey with this analogy?
I think she's reminding us that even in the face of these massive global challenges, even small focused actions can make a difference.
Right.
We don't have to solve everything at once.
Right.
We can start by making a difference in one area, one community, one life at a time.
Yeah.
And when enough people do that, well, that's how real change happens.
That's a really inspiring message. It gives me hope that we can actually make a difference even when the problem seems so overwhelming.
Yeah.
But how do we choose where to focus our efforts? Where do we even begin?
That's a great question, and one we'll continue to explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Yes. Welcome back. I'm eager to delve deeper into some of the specific areas where AI could have the biggest impact in 2034.
Okay.
Remember how before the break we talked about the starfish story and how even small actions can make a difference?
Yeah.
Well, choosing where to focus those actions, that's the real challenge, isn't it?
It is. And honestly, after hearing about all the possibilities, it's tough to pick just one.
Right.
AI, revolutionizing healthcare, combating climate change, tackling social justice issues. It's all so exciting. But I have to admit, the potential of AI in drug discovery really captured my imagination.
Yeah.
The idea of finding cures for diseases that are currently incurable or even preventing diseases before they develop, that's truly mind-blowing.
It's a fantastic area to focus on and one where AI is already making significant strides.
Really?
Imagine a world where we can detect cancer cells at their earliest stages long before they've had a chance to form a tumor.
Right.
Or imagine being able to personalize treatments based on your individual genetic makeup. So you receive the most effective therapy with the fewest side effects.
Yeah.
That's the kind of precision medicine that AI can enable.
It sounds almost too good to be true. How is AI actually being used in drug discovery today?
One way is by analyzing massive data sets of chemical compounds to identify those that are most likely to be effective against a particular disease target. This is a process that used to take years, and now with AI, we can do it in a fraction of the time.
Wow.
It's like having a superpowered research assistant working around the clock, sifting through mountains of data to find the needle in the haystack.
That's incredible. But AI is also being used to analyze medical images, right?
Yeah.
I've heard about AI systems that can detect things in x-rays and MRIs that human doctors might miss.
That's right. AI is particularly good at pattern recognition, and it can be trained to spot subtle abnormalities in medical images that might escape the human eye.
Right.
This can lead to earlier and more accurate diagnoses, which can be life-saving, especially for diseases like cancer.
So AI is not just accelerating drug discovery, it's also making diagnoses more precise and efficient.
Absolutely.
But let's shift gears a bit and talk about some of the potential downsides or risks we touched on earlier.
Okay.
You mentioned job displacement as one of the big concerns.
Yeah.
How do we prepare for a future where robots might be doing many of the jobs that humans do today?
It's a valid concern, and it's one we need to address proactively. Okay. It's not about stopping progress, but about making sure that progress benefits everyone.
Right.
We need to focus on retraining and upskilling workers for the jobs of the future.
Okay.
Jobs that require creativity, critical thinking, complex problem solving, and emotional intelligence skills that AI is still a long way from mastering.
So it's not about fearing AI, but about adapting to it and figuring out how to leverage its strengths while also cultivating our uniquely human abilities.
Precisely. It's about finding the right balance. We need to embrace AI's potential to improve our lives while also being mindful of its limitations and potential downsides.
You also mentioned the issue of bias in AI algorithms. Can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Sure. AI algorithms learn from the data they're trained on, and if that data reflects existing biases in our society, the algorithms will perpetuate those biases.
Right.
It's like teaching a child to see the world through a distorted lens.
Yeah.
So if we want AI to be fair and impartial, we need to make sure it's learning from data that is diverse, representative, and as free from bias as possible.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But how do we do that in practice? It seems like a daunting task.
It is, but it's absolutely essential. We need to be more conscious of the data we collect and how we use it.
Yeah.
We need to develop methods for detecting and mitigating bias in AI systems. And we need to involve diverse voices in the development and deployment of AI to make sure it reflects a wide range of perspectives.
So it's not just about the technology itself, but about the people who are creating and using it.
Exactly. AI is a powerful tool, but it's a tool that needs to be wielded responsibly and ethically.
This is all very insightful. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on some of the other global challenges Dr. Hun discussed in her presentation. For example, how can AI play a role in combating climate change? It feels like such an urgent issue, and we're running out of time to find solutions.
You're right, climate change is an existential threat, and AI can be a powerful ally in the fight against it.
Okay.
AI can help us analyze vast amounts of climate data, identify patterns and trends, and make more accurate predictions about future climate change impacts.
Okay.
This kind of data-driven forecasting can inform policy decisions, helping us develop more effective mitigation and adaptation strategies.
So AI is like a climate change detective, helping us understand the problem and find solutions. But what specific actions can we take based on these insights?
Think about optimizing renewable energy production, improving energy efficiency, developing more sustainable agricultural practices. These are all areas where AI can make a real difference. For example, AI can be used to manage smart grids that balance energy supply and demand more efficiently, reducing our reliance on fossil fuels.
That's fascinating. And what about natural disasters like the earthquakes we discussed earlier? Can AI help us predict and prepare for these kinds of events?
It's a promising area of research. AI can be used to analyze seismic data, identify patterns that might precede an earthquake, and potentially provide early warnings to vulnerable populations. This kind of predictive power could save countless lives.
This is all starting to sound very hopeful. But what about some of the more social and political challenges we face? Can AI really help us address things like economic inequality and social injustice?
It can certainly contribute. Remember, AI excels at identifying patterns in vast data sets, and those patterns can reveal a lot about the underlying causes of social problems.
Right.
For example, AI can be used to analyze data on income distribution, access to healthcare, educational opportunities, and employment patterns. By revealing the systemic factors that contribute to inequality, AI can help us develop more effective policies and interventions.
It's like AI is giving us a new lens through which to see these complex problems.
Yeah.
But once we see the problems more clearly, what then? How can we actually use AI to create solutions?
Well, that's where human ingenuity comes in. AI can't solve these problems on its own.
Right.
It's a tool, not a magic wand, but it can give us the knowledge and insights we need to develop more effective policies, programs, and interventions.
Okay.
For example, AI can be used to design more equitable allocation of resources, personalize educational interventions to help students from disadvantaged backgrounds succeed, or identify and address systemic biases in the criminal justice system.
This is all incredibly thought-provoking. I feel like we're just scratching the surface of what's possible with AI.
Yeah.
But before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I want to pose one final question to our listeners. We've talked a lot about the potential of AI to solve problems. But what about its potential to create new problems? What are some of the unforeseen consequences we might face as AI becomes more powerful and pervasive? It's something to ponder as we head into the final part of our deep dive. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Dr. Kitty Hun's presentation on AI's potential impact in 2034. Before the break, we left you with a bit of a cliffhanger. What new problems might AI create, even as it solves existing ones?
Well, it's a question that deserves careful consideration. The very things that make AI so powerful, its ability to learn, adapt, and make decisions at a scale beyond human capability also create the potential for unintended consequences.
Okay, so we're talking about the potential downsides of AI. The flip side of all the amazing possibilities we've been discussing. But what are some concrete examples? What kind of problems might we face that we haven't even anticipated?
Well, one area that raises significant concerns is the development of autonomous weapons systems.
Okay.
As AI gets better at making complex decisions, the possibility of delegating lethal force to machines becomes a very real and very troubling prospect.
You're talking about killer robots.
Yeah.
Weapons that could potentially select and engage targets without human intervention.
Exactly.
I've seen those in movies, but it's chilling to think they could become a reality.
It's a scenario we need to be thinking carefully about. Another concern is the potential for AI to deepen existing inequalities.
Okay.
If access to AI technology and its benefits is concentrated in the hands of a few wealthy individuals, corporations, or governments, it could exacerbate the divide between the haves and have-nots.
So it's not just about the technology itself, but about who controls it and how it's distributed.
Exactly.
That makes sense. What other unintended consequences should we be thinking about?
One that keeps me up at night is the potential for AI to erode human agency and autonomy. As we become more reliant on AI systems to make decisions for us, filter our information, and shape our choices, we risk losing some of our critical thinking skills and our ability to make independent judgments.
It's like we're outsourcing our brains to the algorithms. But isn't that already happening to some extent?
Yeah.
I mean, think about how often we rely on our phones for directions, recommendations, or even just to fill a few idle moments.
You're right. It's a subtle shift, but a significant one.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to be aware of these potential pitfalls and to start thinking critically about how we want to shape our relationship with AI. It's not about rejecting the technology, but about using it thoughtfully and intentionally.
So how do we do that? It all seems so complex and overwhelming. What can we as individuals do to make sure AI is developed and used responsibly?
It might seem daunting, but there are things we can all do. First and foremost, stay informed.
Okay.
Read about AI, engage in discussions, ask questions, and don't be afraid to challenge the status quo. Support organizations and initiatives that are working to promote ethical AI development. And perhaps most importantly, be mindful of your own interactions with AI.
Okay.
Pay attention to how you're using it, what data you're sharing, and how you're allowing it to shape your thoughts and behaviors.
That's great advice. It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping the future of AI. As we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
Well, I think the most important thing is to remember that the future of AI is not predetermined. It's something we're all actively shaping through our choices, our actions, and the conversations we have.
Right.
If we approach AI with a mix of curiosity, caution, and a commitment to ethical development, we can harness its power to create a better world for everyone.
Well said. Dr. Kitty Hung's presentation has definitely given us a lot to think about.
Yes, it has.
The potential of AI is immense, but so are the risks. It's up to all of us to ensure that AI is used for good and that its benefits are shared by all. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the future of AI.